Welcome back, folks. This is a video on putting up a pegboard for storage. So let's get right into it.
Curtis A reached out to me, said make a theme song for my show. Said alright, just give me all the details, man. And my homie says he don't know. Well, if you're gonna pay me big bucks, cause I might should have something to say. He said, you know what I bring, I'm the customizing king, nothing else matters anyway. So is he gonna have guests? I don't know. Is he gonna go live? I don't know. What time will it be? What will you see? I'm pretty much in the dark, but I can guarantee he'll be customizing action figures, getting paint all on his fingers. It's art by Akerman. It's art by Akerman. Tips and tricks and conversation, sharing his gift with every nation. It's art by Akerman. Art by Akerman. You best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Akerman.
So recorded this over a few days that it took to set this up. Obviously, that was going to make for a very long video, so I figured I would just do it, remove the audio, do it in fast motion, and then kind of talk about it here. So, as you know, basically what happened with this, the reason why I got into this was I was having a hard time finding the figures that I needed when I was going to customize. So I have a bunch of extra Mythic Legions figures, but they were in boxes. I had some stashed away in a wardrobe, and it was just taking me a while to find them. And so I was trying to find other solutions, and I thought about a bookcase at first, and then I thought, you know, why not just hang them on pegs like you would see like at a show or in a store or something. So I started looking into it and found out that pegboards are pretty inexpensive. 4 foot by 8 foot pegboard runs about $25 at a hardware store. So I got mine at Home Depot, and you're going to need a few different things. So I will list all of this in the description. But first thing you're going to need is obviously a pegboard. So, you know, once again, 4 foot by 8 foot section costs about $25 at the hardware store. You're going to need something that they call furring strips, which I guess are like kind of scrap wood that you use to mount something. And I ended up putting one at the top and bottom and thought that would be good enough. But then there was some bend in it because the sections that I was hanging was like 3 foot sections, and there was just too much give in the middle. So I ended up having to put some extra furring strips in like behind it as well. You'll need a stud finder. So, you know, it'll point directly to me, but seriously, you'll need a stud finder to find out where you can hang these. You'll need some screws. I used some 1-inch screws as well as some 3-inch screws, and I'll talk to you about like where those go. Obviously, you'll need some pegs, and I found a set on Amazon with like 100 of them for like $38 or something like that. And then I ended up adding some shelves at the top as well. So those shelves, they actually will hang in a pegboard. So it comes with like these mounting brackets that go into the pegboard and shelves that you can put in. And I did that for my double figures or like the deluxe packaging. So like the War of the Aether Blade figures and things like that were just a little bit too heavy for a peg. And then, you know, once I got towards the end, I found that my pegs had a little bit of flex to it, a little bit of bend, and I think a lot of it was due to it just wasn't making good contact with the board. And so I picked up these rubber end caps that go, you can put it on the bottom peg that's holding it against the wall, and that makes it a little bit more stable, so you don't have that flexibility and wiggliness in the pegs. I also put those end caps on the end of the peg just to prevent anything from, you know, sliding off, you know, unnecessarily and that kind of thing. So, you know, I ended up taking that 4 foot by 8 foot section. I left it the 4 foot wide. The 8 foot I cut into 3 parts. So I cut it into 2 3 foot sections and a 2 foot section. Here, what you see is I've hung the two 3-foot sections. The 2-foot section I have that I can use somewhere else at a later date. I found where the studs were and hung a furring strip at the top of the top board, a furring strip at the bottom of the top board, and then also where the studs were up and down behind the board, just to give it a little bit more support. And then I did the same thing for the bottom one. And then once it was all done and I was hanging the figures, and I realized that those deluxe packages weren't going to hold on a single peg, that's when I went back and got the shelves, which I put at the very top for the deluxe figures. So some other things that you'll just need a drill. I've got a drill with some random drill bits. It also doubles as a electric screwdriver, which helped out quite a bit with this. And as far as where to put the screws and stuff, you just want to make sure that you're finding those studs ahead of time, and that you're mounting the furring strips along where those studs are. And when you put the pegboard onto the furring strip, that you're drilling through the pegboard itself, through the furring strip, through the stud. That way it's holding it nice and solid. And that's where you're going to use those like 3-inch screws. The 1-inch I kind of used along the way to hold the furring strip to the wall itself. But really those 3-inch ones where the studs are is what was, holding most of this up. So, and then once I got everything up, I was able to hang all my individual figures. I tried to group them by, the types of figures. So I've got like a lot of the knights up at the top, and then barbarians and gladiators, going into like skeletons, and then some orcs, goblins, down to like dwarves and stuff like that. So that way, if I go to try to find a figure, I can kind of think, okay, well, what kind of figure is it that I'm looking for? And then based on that, I can go through and find the ones that I need. I do have a few that previously I had just opened up and put into bags in order to save some space. And so you'll see a few of them when I get towards the end that'll be hung up in like Ziploc bags. And they're still brand new figures. They haven't been used or anything. They just were taken out of the package to save room. So, but other than that, that is really about it. I think this was a pretty easy way to put something up. It was relatively inexpensive. I think all in, probably looking at less than $200. So $25 for the pegboard. Furring strips was like another, I think it was like $20 for the furring strips. The screws were another, I think $10, $5 for the 1-inch. It was a big box of them. I got tons left. And then $5 for the 3-inch ones. The stud finder, I believe, was like $12. The pegs were like $38 or $39 for 100 of them. And then the shelving units that I put in at the top were, I believe, like $42. And then I think the rubber end caps for like 300 of them was like $6. So, not too bad, as far as the price-wise goes. And then I think once it got done, it was, really nice look. I would advise that you have somebody with you while you're doing it. You're going to need somebody to kind of help hold the board in place while you're screwing it into the furring strips and the studs. It also just helps, as you're going through this, just making sure everything's lined up and looking nice, and that you don't have any issues. So there's my wife, Darla, there. She was getting some of the low ones, so I didn't have to bend all the way down to the ground. And there's my belly. So, yeah, I mean, that was really how this went. You can see now I'm putting those ones at the top, and I was, first testing, how high or low it should be and whether it was going to hold the weight. And, I ended up putting the set that I got comes with 4 shelves, but 3 going across the top fills up that 4-foot section. So it was nice, and that gave me a spare to use later. So As far as like leftover stuff, I've got tons of screws. I've still got a couple pieces of furring strip. I've got that 2-foot section, 2-foot by 4-foot pegboard section, and one more shelf, as well as a whole bunch of extra pegs because I didn't use nearly all the pegs. And then those rubber caps for it, I've still got several of those as well. Probably 150 of those or so. So here you're seeing me kind of hang up those figures. I do some kind of changes as I go along because I didn't know how many figures were going to fit. I didn't know if I'd be able to fit all the things that I had on there as far as the stuff that has a peg hole. And then as I got closer to the end, I realized that I had enough room that I could spread stuff out a little bit. So I did that later on. Still have a few other things that aren't on this. Obviously I've got the Legions Con exclusive sets. I've got the Figure Obscura, Cosmic Legions, anything that was in a box that didn't have a peg hole on it, obviously didn't go on here. But anything that was a single carded figure with a peg hole did go on this. I remember when I first was getting into customizing about 4 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of figures available. You had a handful of figures on Big Bad Toy Store, or you were going to eBay, and that was really about it. There were, no figures that were on Four Horsemen in stock like you see now. So it was one of those things that when I started getting on the pre-order train, definitely looked at, which ones I thought had a lot of customizing potential, either unique parts or kind of useful base bodies that I could use, and made sure to start loading up on those, especially like the Legion builders and things like that. So, but yeah, now you can see, the kind of figures that I have on here, and I feel like this is going to be really easy to shop as I start making customs, that I can look on this and quickly find what it is that I'm looking for. So as we get into the end here, starting at the top, got some of those double packs. So like the game figures, Poxus, Necronominus. I think I got a Belualith and some other stuff back there. Got some Templars on the top row, going into some Gladiator, Barbarians, regular Knights, Xylonis folks, Skeletons, down into Goblins, over to Orcs. Go down, got some female figures, Wizards, Vampires, Dwarves, and then down into a couple Demons there. So definitely still have some extra room in the bottom row, as well as a lot of these pegs only have 2 to 3 figures on them, where you can fit 4 easily. 5, it starts to droop just a little bit, but it just kind of depends on how heavy it is. So hopefully you guys found value in this. If this is something that you're interested in doing, it's not a terribly difficult project. You just need to make sure that you get all the right supplies and have somebody with you helping you to put it up. So thank you for watching. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to throw those in there. And until next time, folks, keep creating.